The Netheries are a foul plague upon this world, corrupting everything they touch. They have cursed the Grey Wolf tribe, turning them into bloodthirsty monsters.
I can see how that would be upsetting. Something else that used to upset me when I used to play through Neverwinter in the past was that I would play through an entire series of adventures like Vellosk, and then at the end, instead of a big finale or conclusion, I had to queue up and wait for the queue to launch, and maybe then I could go through something like the Grey Wolf Den. I used to say, man, I just wish there was some way that I could play through the Grey Wolf Den just to cap off this adventure and just to get the end of the story. I played the entire thing by myself. I really wish I could just see how it ended on my own. Well, welcome to the Jewel of the North, where dreams do come true. Hey everyone, I'm Kel, and now that you're here, let's talk about Neverwinter. No, I get it. I do. I really do. I played through all of Adventures in Wild Space, and then you queue up and you go and you raid the Imperial Citadel and you fight Prince Zeleth. It's the way the game works, and I don't have any illusions about that. But in the beginning, especially for these opening campaigns where it's so story-based and so it's a funnel that takes you through to level 20. And you really can play in like a weekend. You can get a first level character to level 20, and you can start playing the campaigns and the more current content. You can use any gear that you find because at most it's bound to level 20. At that point, it makes sense that you've got to queue up with a group and fight. But the changes made for Jewel of the North really made these a streamlined, story-based experience. And it really was a good choice, in my mind, to make it so that when you got to the end of Vellosk, you go right into the Grey Wolf Den. You get to the end of Icespire Peak, you go right in to Frozen Heart. I really am glad that they made that decision, because when you're playing through from start to finish in maybe a weekend, if you have to wait for those queues to finish the story, you would literally be playing 6 stories in a row, and maybe half of them would have a conclusion to them. I don't know about you, but if I get to the last chapter of a novel, I don't put the book back on the shelf. Where's our buddy Dying Howl going to send us this time? Well, obviously after some shadar-kai. This particular room, though, is really cool. Here we are in some Netherese ruins, fighting some shadar-kai, and after we'd managed to defeat them, we start to realize that the floor has some really interesting things on it. These are actually images that we first saw in the clock tower in Neverdeath, and because of the way the leveling campaign is organized right now, it puts these two adventures back to back in a way that they really weren't before. And if you've gotten a certain colorful, magical board out of the Summer Festival a couple years ago, these images will look even more familiar to you. Luckily, they're very cool images, and a lot of fun to see them keep coming back into the game. They add a little bit of color, a little bit of excitement, and a little bit of familiarity. And the way I choose to look at it is, what's up with these clock tower people that had them using imagery that obviously dates all the way back to Netheril? I know there's other ways of looking at it, but that's the way I've chosen to see it. Okay, time for the big showdown with Markella Whisper Soul, and I've got to say, every time I see a bad guy doing that, I wonder, if I just stand here and don't engage, will she overcharge and just explode? Because that would be cool. A lot easier on my part.
The death of Markella Whisper Soul will weaken the Netherese greatly.
We did such a good job that we get to take the next rung up the ladder, climbing up the mountain overlooking Vellosk. And we have climbed so high and so far that we reached a whole new climate zone. The heck? Gotta admit, this is pretty cool. I mean, how many adventures do you play where you're climbing up a mountain and there is a logical and actually pretty well constructed shift from no snow to snow? Such a nice touch. Hadrick Longtooth, on the other hand, well, I guess, to be honest, how do you follow up Dying Howl? I mean, he really had his work cut out for him. So, gotta give the man respect for just being himself, standing up here in the snow, ready to send you on your way to defeat, well, not necessarily defeat the boss of the entire dungeon, because first you got to do a couple of extra quests. I mean, hey, they made an entirely new climate zone for the top of the mountain. You got to get your money's worth out of that, right? Return on investment? And hey, you can't have a story that deals with Shar without also including the fact that she's got a sister named Saloon that you look up in the sky every night and you see. Even though I'm not really sure it makes a whole lot of sense to have an artifact of Saloon and an artifact of Shar up here, but hey, it's a werewolf thing, and Saloon's the moon, so there, it makes sense. And then there's this. Seriously, am I the only one who gets flashbacks to the original Hellraiser movie when I look at that pillar just slowly turning, covered with occult sigils? Yeah, just me? Okay. So we gathered the MacGuffins, we went back to Hadrick. Hadrick gave us the plot permission to come back to the place that we had already found and use the things that we'd already collected so that we could open the door and roll the stone away. Man, when I had to queue up for this dungeon, I used to sit there and think, why can't we just see that stone roll open? It was really kind of cool the first time I actually got to see it happen. I love those animations. Now we get to play through the Grey Wolf Den. Okay, so I thought this was interesting that we get to fight Regdar here. I remember reading from the design team when they did Cthulhu D20, and Regdar was the iconic fighter for the 3rd edition game, that throughout Cthulhu D20 they were trying to find different ways of showing Regdar disemboweled, massacred, killed in different creative ways. And if you flip through that old D20 book, it bears out. They were as creative as they could be without breaking any internal guidelines from the company. And so every time I get to this part, and here's Regdar, this throwback to the 3rd edition days of Dungeons and Dragons, and his whole purpose here is to be the first boss in the Grey Wolf Den so that you can go and chop him up into little pieces. It just makes me laugh every time I see this guy. I don't know what they had in for him, but he has been punished for years. One of my favorite views in all of Neverwinter is getting to the top of the mountain in Vellosk and then just looking out. You can see the wind blowing the snow, the moon. You've been looking up at this wolf's head at the top of the mountain for so long, and now you get to the top and you get the opportunity to look out. And I love the way the visuals really convey the sense of cold and how far you've climbed to get to this point. And then, of course, the next thing you do is climb even higher, because you're not at the top yet. And there's a little Wizard of Oz feeling here as you get to the top, and you see the silhouettes of Ethraniev's minions walking across. There's a little oh-wee-oh, oh-oh. It's pretty cool. Neat little foreshadowing. I don't know, is it really foreshadowing if you just killed 3,000 wolves and you see the silhouettes of 4 more? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it's pretty cool. Gives you an idea of where you are and what's going on. I like it every now and then when Neverwinter does something that isn't strictly combat-based, but actually serves to just kind of build mood a little bit. And I think you can tell the quality of your evil overlord by the number of these crazy stone bridges that you have to pull a lever that is only ever on the side of the person who is intruding to get past. So here, like, Ethraniev has one crazy stone bridge, but by the time you get to Ebon Downs, Idris has got like 4 of them. So obviously Idris is much more of an evil overlord than Ethraniev. Ethraniev is kind of like your starter evil overlord, kind of you're not very nice overlord. You know, you're kind of morally gray overlord, not really an evil overlord yet. But you know, give her some time. I'm sure she would have gotten some more of those crazy stone bridges. She really would have worked up her evil cred. Would have been a very different battle at the end of this. But fortunately, Dying Hell was there to send you on your way. Nip it in the bud. All right, all that's left is the big fight at the end. You have literally climbed a mountain to fight this werewolf. You do the battle, fight her, you take her down, and in the end, you have freed the village of Vellosk and given hope to the Forsworn. Well done, adventurer. I hope you liked what you've seen here today. If you did, please consider giving a like and a subscribe, and leave a comment in the section down below. We'll look forward to seeing you next time when we talk about Neverwinter.